how's it all, you amazing godly men? Today we are speaking a little bit into our series that we handled this last verse about Jonah, and I want to break it up into three pieces. The first one is where we see Jonah actually being called by God. God has called on him first to do something, and he was a prophet in the Bible, and he had all the, I'm going to say, the nice way of that God is speaking directly to him. But you see, if you listen to the story of Jonah, he didn't actually go where God has called him first. Where we see it in verse 2 in Jonah, it says, get up. God is speaking to him directly, and go to the city of Nineveh and preach against it, because their evil has become before me. And then listen to the very next verse. Jonah got up and flee. Now, sometimes, guys, God has called us to do something. If I look at the story of Jonah, God has called us to reach out to people, go to certain places, and we are so afraid to do it sometimes. For Jonah, it was the thing, maybe he didn't believe that Nineveh was worth saving because it was a very evil and wicked town. Maybe he was afraid of disappointment, and that, even though God has called him, that's not going to happen. They're just going to look at him and maybe kill him or laugh at him. And I was just thinking, if I look at Jonah, God has called us all to do something in our lives and in the ministry and in your household and so forth. So I want to maybe ask today, just as we start off with this 3 parts here today, what is God calling you to do that you're afraid of? What is your Nineveh at this moment? Are you afraid of disappointment? Are you afraid that it's not going to work? Are you afraid God is not going to come through for you? And we need to look at that now. We can also see what happened to Jonah is that when he was fleeing, he actually climbed into a boat and he went down to sleep, and a huge storm came. And actually our actions, our disobedience can affect other people. And here's what I love about God. Even though the storm was raging and they were throwing their stuff overboard to keep afloat, Jonah had to repent and say, you know what, it is me. I know it is me. God is calling me to you. You have to throw me overboard. And people didn't want to do that. But in the end, for God to understand God's power, these people said in the book of Jonah, pray to your God, because they were all praying to their own gods. And then when Jonah said, I have to be thrown over, and when they threw him over and the sea became calm, they saw that situation, that his God, Jonah's God, was the only God. And I just love how God works, even in the extremities of situation, even though other people's lives were in danger, yet God could still show his power already. So I want to ask you today, are you afraid of something? Has God called you to something that you're not sure about? Are you afraid like Jonah? Or don't you believe people need that saving in your life at this moment? Because that's what Jonah felt. And as we go to part 2 and part 3, I'm going to show you where you're at your darkest days, how you have to reflect to God, and also how God also gives second and third and fourth chances. I love the story of Jonah. It's got a great ending, and we're going to catch that a little bit later. So for today, I want to ask you today, like Jonah, we all have a Jonah situation inside of us. We're afraid, we're scared, we don't believe people need to be saving. But God can use any circumstance, even in your disobedience, to reach other people, because Jonah was disobedient, went to a boat, this boat became stormy, and they saw that Jonah's God was the only true God. Have a great day, guys. We'll see you soon, and I'll post version 2 soon. Cheers, eh?